Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live daily on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure: all Bookmap Ltd materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure: trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. The focus of my presentation and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel in Discord is options, order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading, and the first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as a directional bias. And the second step of my process is execution, and I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups. And when I talk about setups, I will be talking about an underlying asset like a stock or a future. Setups can be taken any number of ways, with futures, shares of stock, or with options. And questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching the Options-Doug chat channel in Discord and the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. And Second Winds, hello, glad you're here. Great to see you on a Friday afternoon. My agenda for today, what I want to talk about, news, economic data, and events, primarily for next week. And then I'll go through my positional analysis. I'll review a few setups from the morning, and then I'll talk about the live market. So when we get to the live market, if anybody has any stocks that they want me to take a look at, I'll do that. But I'm planning on looking at the S&P 500, NASDAQ, and a few stocks. All right, let's get started. So as far as news goes, there was nothing today. It's been an extremely light week for news, but then it kicks in to high gear next week. Some of the highlights are CPI, the FOMC meeting. So I think CPI is on Tuesday, FOMC meeting on Wednesday. I think PPI will be out also. And then, of course, Friday, June 16th, is the large quarterly options expiration. So definitely an event-packed week next week. All right, let's get started. And I'll go over that more on Monday, go over all the events and economic data coming up next week on Monday. All right, let's get started. Start with positional analysis. And this is the S&P 500 futures. And before I take a closer look at this chart, this is Bookmap ES futures. I'm going to take a look at a larger time frame. This is SPX in a 30-day, 1-hour chart. And let's change the time frame here a little bit. I'm going to go to 20 days. Just so we can see the current market a little bit more clearly. So the range for SPX appears to be moving higher. So beginning last Friday, the range was about 4,250 to 4,300, and then now SPX is trying to break out above that into above 4,300. So let me point out some levels on this chart. First of all, the lower and upper edge the expected move for the week, shown with the dashed purple line. So SPX is trading well below the upper weekly expected move and well above the lower weekly expected move. So somewhere just in the middle of that range. And then this is the lower and upper edge of the expected move for the day. And SPX did break above that level, but now is trading below that level. And there are also some key Spotgamma levels on this chart. Let me point those out. First of all, the put wall for SPX remains at 4,000. That's the strike with the largest net negative gamma. That can be expected to act as support. And the next level is the volatility trigger, and that is Spotgamma's proprietary gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, they need to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure, and that tends to enhance volatility. On the other hand, above that level, like SPX is trading now, market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive. In a positive gamma environment, they need to trade against price to hedge their delta exposure, and that tends to subdue volatility. And then the next major level is the call wall at 4,300, and that is the strike with the largest net positive gamma, and that can be expected to act as resistance. And so far today, it's not doing that. So, it's possible that the SPX call wall will roll up, but so far it has remained at 4,300 for quite a while. And Spotgamma statistics show that price should trade lower after breaching that level. So those are the primary levels, and one thing to note is the SPY call wall did roll higher. Up to 435. So a little bit of a conflict there between the SPX 4,300 and the SPY 435. All right, let's take a look at Bookmap now. So this is SPX, again, just SPX price and levels. And this is Bookmap. And in Bookmap, I've got two columns of notes with levels here. And this is the Spotgamma Cloud notes, showing there a combo level, combining SPX and SPY into one combo level. And I have my own column of cloud notes here. So I have the same SPX levels. I'm using a slightly different ES to SPX difference. I think Spotgamma is still using a 7-point difference. This morning I calculated it at 2.5. So I'm showing my 43.19 level down here. And I think it's trading around 2.5 or 3. This is ES minus SPX. So this is an SPX number converted to an equivalent ES number. And note I am trading the June contract. And I will most likely roll over on Monday. So on Monday I should be trading the September contract. And that difference between ES and SPX will expand significantly with the September contract. All right, I'm also showing key SPY levels. And for example, here's the SPY 429 volatility trigger, and that did act as support around 12 noon Eastern time to 12:45, and now price is resolving higher. So that was the support level for today. And then here's the 4,300 SPX 4,300 call wall, and price is trading above that level. And again, remember the SPY call wall is up at 435 now. So as far as shifts in levels go for the S&P 500, there were none for the SPX. On the other hand, every major level, the key daily levels that I follow, all shifted higher. So we see here, there's the SPY volatility trigger at 429, up from 427 yesterday. The put wall shifted up from 425 to 427. And as I mentioned, the call wall shifted higher from 430 to 435. And the absolute gamma strike also shifted higher from 425 to 430. So very, very bullish for the S&P 500 for SPY when all levels shift higher like that. And we'll talk about setups in a few minutes. So that's the S&P 500. Those are the levels in play. Also, I forgot to look at a shorter time frame for SPX. So we'll do that now. So this is showing the levels, just the price and levels that are in play for today for SPX. And note that SPX is trading, was trading above the upper daily expected move, and now it is back above the call wall. So that's the SPX, 1 day, 1 minute, showing the levels that are in play for today, primarily the call wall and the upper daily expected move. All right, so SPX is trying to, S&P 500 trying to move higher. We'll take a look at setups in a few minutes. Let's take a look at NASDAQ now. This is the NQ futures. Again, I'm on the June contract. Let's take a look at a QQQ chart and see the levels that are in play for today. So here the this 355 level, and that was noted as the as a resistance level for QQQ today in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note, and it did act as support and resistance a couple of times, and now price is moving higher, and it looks like the 353 level acted as support. So those are the levels that are in play for today for QQQ. Also, on this chart, I have, again, my cloud notes, and I'm showing the QQQ levels as well as NDX and combo levels. So there is the 14,556 NDX QQQ combo level, and then there's the put wall, the 14,480 put wall. So shifts in levels for the NASDAQ. For NDX, the volatility trigger, put wall, and call wall all shifted higher, and that's bullish. And then for QQQ, the volatility trigger shifted higher to 351. Otherwise, the levels did not change. So for QQQ, the call wall remains at 360, and the absolute gamma strike remains at 350. Okay, and YouTube Alex says, hey Doug, hey Alex, I remember you said there was a JP Morgan call at 432. Could you show me exactly where you were able to see that again? All right, so that is the, what Alex is referring to is the short strike of the JP Morgan caller that expires at the end of June. And we'll take a look at that, and that can, as price gets close to that level, close to the end of the month, then that level could act as a magnet, and it often has been a magnet for price. So we can take a quick look at that. Let me go to SPX. And the end of June go over here to the calls, don't need so many. So here it is. This may be hard to see. That's the open interest at the 30th June 43.20 strike. Open interest almost 56,000. So that is the JP Morgan SPX short call, and as expiration approaches, and if price approaches that level, the gamma at that level will increase, and that has that strike, JP Morgan call strike has definitely acted as a magnet in the past. So I'm looking at Thinkorswim. But you should be able to see this in any trading platform that has an options chain. And let's go back while we're on this chart. This is the heat map for the S&P 500, just showing what the stocks that are leading the rally today, and it's the usual suspects, mostly large cap tech and Tesla. All right, so NASDAQ trying to make it back up to the upper daily expected move. Right, and I talked about shifts in levels for the NASDAQ and the levels that are in play. All right, let's take a look at some other information that I use in my positional analysis. First of all, this is the Vanna model, and this will give us a sense of how market makers are positioned at the beginning of the day and how they can be expected to react with changes in price and implied volatility. So what this chart is showing is market makers' delta notional on the vertical axis and how that changes with price, shown on the horizontal axis. There are two curves on this chart. The first, the light gray curve, is showing how market makers' delta notional changes with changes in price only. And what this is showing is as price increases, market makers will need to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. And the other curve is adding implied volatility to the equation. So this is showing how market makers' delta notional is expected to change with changes in price and implied volatility. And that change in delta with a change in implied volatility is the Vanna effect. Let's see where SPX is trading now. Give me just a moment to bring up a watch list. All right, I was trying to get that on my other computer. It's not responding. Let me check over here. So I have SPX at 43.06. 306. Somewhere right at the bottom of the pink curve. So this is showing that if price increases from here, market makers will need to sell futures, and if price decreases, market makers will need to sell futures. So the pink curve is really or the purple curve is the one that we want to take a look at. So market makers' position on the gamma curve, at least according to this, is pretty much neutral. Now their gamma notional is actually quite positive at the beginning of the day, and of course SPX is trading well above the volatility trigger, so it's actually in a positive gamma. Market maker's position is positive gamma for SPX. Let's take a look at one other Vanna model here. I'm going to take a look at QQQ. So it's quite a bit different. SPX, gamma notional, is quite positive. And for SPX, for SPX, it's quite positive. And for QQQ, slightly negative this morning. So this is the Vanna model for QQQ. Quite a bit of difference here. More of a negative gamma tilt. Let's see where QQQ is trading right now. Right around 355. So right around here. So this is showing there's a slight tailwind. If we look at the purple curve, market makers delta notional will decrease slightly as price approaches 357, 358. So market makers may be able to buy back a little bit of short futures. So, but on the other hand, there's a pretty substantial headwind to price. They will need to sell futures to hedge delta exposure if price drops. And Second Wind's asked, will you be looking at Tesla today? Yeah, we can look at Tesla. And I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Muted. Sorry. Anyway, he says, new student here. Great. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Be patient. This may take some time to absorb. But glad you're here. Welcome. All right, let's take a look at the final thing that I look at in my planning, and that is the gamma notional. And as I mentioned, gamma notional for SPX, shown here, is quite positive, 943 million. And also for SPY, also positive. Both of these numbers increased from yesterday. And for SPY, gamma notional was negative, and slightly negative yesterday, and today it is positive. Not much change for NDX, and then still slightly negative for QQQ, and it was more negative yesterday. So those numbers all moved higher, either more positive or less negative than yesterday. And Alex asks, what's the best way to use the Vanna model to know where to get in on a trade? I would not use it as a any kind of entry signal, entry trigger. It's simply giving me a sense of how market makers are going to be hedging. So I would use this more in a well, certainly in a positive gamma environment like SPX. My thesis for the day based on, so it's helping me develop a thesis. So it is in the first part, I group it in the first part of my trading process, the planning process. So it is, along with gamma notional, I know that market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive, and I expect them to be trading against price to hedge their delta exposure, and that leads me to look for a lower volatility range day with highs and lows, not necessarily a trending day. So that's how I use that information, the Vanna model and gamma notional, giving me a sense of how market makers are going to be trading with price. So again, based on the gamma notional, positive gamma notional, and Vanna model, I was looking for lower volatility and a range day today. And then based on the shifts higher in the levels for SPY in particular, I was looking, my thesis for the day was, our directional bias was bullish. So I'm using this information again in my planning process, but not in my execution process. All right, so let's, again, so that's my thesis for the day. Lower volatility, trading range with a bullish bias. All right, let's take a look at some setups now. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. This is the Spotgamma Hero indicator. What this is showing is price for SPX here and market maker hedging flow, hedging pressure for the combined signal for the S&P 500. SPX, SPY, XSP, and ES. So this is showing options trades for all those instruments and market maker hedging activity, hedging flow into one combined signal for the S&P 500. And I will tell you that this, for the index products, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, this signal can be a little bit more difficult to interpret than for single stocks. So we'll take a look at both. So this is again the combined signal for the S&P 500. And I'm going to review a few setups from this morning. So before I do that, I want to take a look at the individual components of this signal. So this signal is just slightly positive now, the combined signal at 72 million. Let's take a look at SPX. And that's more positive. I'm looking at this number on the right side of the chart, 432 million. For SPY, slightly positive but has been trending down. And then for ES futures, negative, and it has also been trending down. So let's go back to the combined signal. Let's zoom in on this. And this was a, when you zoom out and take a look at a kind of a larger trend here, and this is the best use for this, is kind of confirming a short setup in the morning. And the first thing in the morning, options traders were taking positive delta positions, and that stopped pretty quickly, just maybe 10-15 minutes after the cash open, and then they slowed down and then started to reverse some of that, started to fade the move higher. And that was another indication, another confirmation of a short setup at this trend break right here. And then there was also a confirmation about 1240 for a long setup. So let's take a look at the morning session. Go back to Bookmap, go back to ES. So here's the morning session, kind of a strong mechanical trend right up to the SPY SPY 432 level, and then price starts to make a series of lower highs. And remember, options traders were starting to had stopped buying and really started to fade the move right around the upper daily expected move. So remember, Hero started to level off and shift slightly lower as price approached that upper daily expected move. So there was a confirmation for the first 15 minutes of a long, and then again options traders started fading this move. Again around 9:45 at the upper daily expected move. And note here that in Bookmap, this blue line, that's cumulative volume delta, starts to shift lower. So it actually here, when it shifts from dark blue to pink, shifts from positive to negative. And pretty typical for the S&P 500. It makes multiple rotations, tests this SPX 4319 level multiple times before finally moving lower. All right, so that's the short setup this morning. Again, my thesis for the day based on the rising levels for SPY was bullish, and that was played out pretty quickly in the morning, up until about 10:30 for the first hour. And then, of course, I always confirm my thesis with order flow and hedging flow, and both were shifting down, setting up this short. And now let's go back and take a look at Hero again. And then, as I mentioned before, around 12:40, options traders started taking positive delta positions and price started moving higher. Looks like they may be fading that move again. So when we go to the live market, we'll take a closer look at this and maybe shift to a shorter rolling window period. All right, so I thought this was the best setup this morning, this reversal at the SPY 432 level. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ. And for NASDAQ, I thought Hero was pretty difficult to read this morning. This is a combined signal for NDX and QQQ. It looks like it really didn't get in sync with price until about 11 o'clock, something like that. And now options traders have been taking positive delta positions starting around noon, and price responded about 40 minutes later. And let's go take a look at Bookmap. Go to NASDAQ. And for me personally, I find order flow a little bit easier to read in NASDAQ. Note the shifts in order flow are pretty clear. It takes a while to resolve. Price did trade above the upper daily expected move for a while, but then started to move lower. Note all the aggressive sellers coming in here. NASDAQ not as quite as rotational as the S&P 500. And note this shift lower in the cumulative volume delta, and that started happening before 10. Iceberg orders, large traders selling with iceberg orders, and they were selling on the way up. That's shown by this light blue line. And then also sell stop orders start to fuel the move lower. And again now for this move higher, price reversing higher at the 353 level, and also the NDX 14,480 put wall. All right, so for the S&P 500, I thought Hero was a good confirmation of a short setup this morning. Not so much for the NASDAQ until this afternoon, this reversal higher. Let's take a look at a few stocks, and then we'll get to the live market. All right, so the first stock that I want to take a look at is AMD. And primarily in the morning session. So let's go to AMD now. Let's zoom in. Note that 125 is the call wall. So this morning AMD traded above the call wall. And this is, I think Hero is often provides a more relevant, a cleaner signal for individual or single stocks than the index products. So here in the morning, just right at the open, traders tripping all over themselves to buy calls. And that led to price moving up. They stop buying calls. Price drops. They make one more attempt to move higher, and then price starts to move lower. Let's just zoom in on the morning session. So this, if you're looking to buy a stock, this is what you want to look at. When traders buy calls, market makers sell the calls, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure, and that can drive a price much higher. And off the chart trading asks, on the bottom corners of the chart, are those P&L from a trading bot? I'm not sure what you're talking about, which chart you're talking about. All right, so there's AMD, call buyers, helping to drive price above the call wall. Let's take a look at Bookmap. Zoom in on the morning session. And again, here's the 125 call wall. And note that it did take several attempts for price to break above that level. Did a retest to that level in VWAP, and then started moving higher. So a call wall breach for AMD, and when that happens, those calls go in the money, and market makers' delta notional will increase, and they will have to buy more stock to hedge their delta exposure. And I'm sorry, their delta notional will decrease, and since they're short calls. All right, so that is AMD. All right, AMD. The next one I want to take a look at is Meta. Pretty similar price action. Strong move from the open. Let's take a look at so what I meant for EMD, when those calls go in the money, market makers are short calls, their delta notional becomes more negative, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. All right, so for Meta, same idea. Call buyers right from the open, tripping over themselves to buy calls in Meta. Show them on this rising orange line, driving price higher. And this, in the case of Meta, found support at the 262 put wall. Let's go back to Bookmap. Straight shot up as traders traders were buying calls. Again, support at the 262 put wall. All right, so RJ wants to see the total signal for Meta. Let's go do that. Call buyers definitely in charge here. So the total signal rising as traders buy calls. All right, the next one, Microsoft. And note this case, in this case, the 330 call wall up here did act as resistance. Let's take a look and see. Not quite as clean a signal, but traders were definitely buying calls in the morning. And note the strong difference between the call and the put line. So traders not doing much with puts, but definitely buying calls. Again, right after the open, traders buying calls, market makers selling the calls, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. All right, those are the three stocks that I wanted to take a look at. And let's see, Second Wind's asked to take a look at Tesla. We'll take a look at that. Tesla has been very strong. I think the last I heard on CNBC, it had been up something like 10 days in a row. So we'll take a look at Tesla, see if traders are taking profits today. And looks like somewhat of a choppy day today here in Tesla. Trading above the call wall at 240. Let's go take a look at Bookmap. Take a look at Tesla. Let's check on Tesla. Still positive for the day. So it gapped up substantially. It's still up 5% for the day. I don't know what it is up for the week. All right, so in a request to take a look at NVIDIA. There's NVIDIA. And I suspect call buyers were at it in the morning. Let's take a look. Not quite as clear a signal as AMD. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so call buyers. Let's zoom in on about the first hour. And you can clearly see here that call buyers were helping to drive price higher. And NVIDIA provided some good pullback entry points. And note again the rising orange line, traders buying calls, and the flat put line. And at this point in the day, about an hour into the open cash session, RTH session, call buyers were definitely winning. Positive 136 million versus minus 34 million. So they were buying calls and buying puts, but call buyers winning. All right, you're welcome, Second Winds. All right, let's take a look at the S&P 500 now. Whoops. So options traders starting to take negative delta positions again. Let's take a closer look. Go to a shorter rolling window period. So now I'm just looking at the last 30 minutes of data instead of the entire day. So options traders have been, since about 110, taking negative delta positions. You know, it looks like they may be turning it around. So we'll see. Let's go take a look. We'll take a look at NASDAQ and then we'll take a look at Bookmap. NASDAQ, they're also taking negative delta positions. Let's just see. So remember, we're on a 30-minute rolling window period here. So now they are buying puts and selling calls. Let's just see if, well, I'm looking at the 0 DTE trades. Let me just look at the total signal. So pretty similar to all expirations. So the 0 DTE trades are shown with the green line, and the purple line is showing all expirations. Turn that off. Well, let's go take a look at Bookmap. So we know that, let's just do another check of the S&P 500. So it looks like they were taking negative delta positions, and then that activity has leveled off. Let's go to Bookmap, go to the S&P 500. All right, still trying to make it up to the upper daily expected move. Looks like some aggressive buyers coming in here. You can see the green volume dots. And the rising cumulative volume delta. All right, we'll take a quick look at NASDAQ, and then Red Panda wants to take a look at Snowflake. I don't have that in Bookmap. We can take a look at it in Hero. So it looks like ES is finding support at VWAP. Take a look at NASDAQ. Oops. Also moving higher, but not much confirmation from cumulative volume delta, stop orders, or icebergs. All right, let's go take a look at Snowflake for in Hero. Again, I don't have it in Bookmap. So it looks like Snowflake found resistance at the call wall. They're at 175. Let's just go to the 1 day period. Back to the 1 day. So they were in the morning, they were selling calls and buying puts. Pretty low volume here, or very low notional value. Minus 5.3 million, negative minus 5.3 million. So certainly in the index products, we're looking at hundreds of million in notional value, or maybe even billions. Big difference there. And even some of the more actively traded stocks. Let's take a look at NVIDIA, for example. 50 million. Microsoft, that's pretty low, 12 million. Apple, 114 million. So again, I'll just in YouTube. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. MT My first interaction with advanced trading system, irresponsible amount of pure knowledge flooding in brain, committed to learn more and more of this. Great. I have some suggestions for you. First of all, Bookmap and Spotgamma both have great websites and YouTube channels. So take your time. Bookmap has a knowledge base, a great learning center, and also Discord. Both have Discord channels. I believe Spotgamma Discord is for subscribers only. Bookmap Discord is free and available to everyone. So there's a ton of information out there. Again, I would start with the websites for Bookmap and Spotgamma, and also the YouTube channels. And what I'm showing is more of the practical side of using Bookmap and Spotgamma for planning and trade execution. Let's go back to Bookmap. And ES slowly grinding back up to the upper daily expected move. Same for NASDAQ. Looks like cumulative volume delta shifting, starting to shift down a bit. And buy stop orders were fueling the move higher, and now that may be shifting a little bit lower. Looking at the yellow line, and then also larger traders are selling with iceberg orders. And the biggest size here was 235 contracts, 14 executions. So here I would be looking for short entries, reversal entries. Let's just check Hero again, see what options traders are doing in NASDAQ. So Hero is trending lower as well, and we're on the back on the 1-day rolling window period. And ES may have found support one more time at VWAP. That's shown by this blue line there. I don't know, NASDAQ may be stuck at this 600 level. I think that is pretty typical of NASDAQ, getting somewhat pinned at a large round number, NQ number, and rotating up and down around it like it has for the last 45 minutes. No, baby, resolving lower. We'll see. Anyway, my time is up. I want everybody, thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. Have a great weekend, and remember, next week is going to be a data and event packed week. Should be a welcome change after this slow week. So thanks again. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye.